so buckle in, have a seat, and let's get into it.
Hey, yo, I'm creeping and I'm creeping and I'm creeping on my feet. Because today's episode is entitled Bipedal AF. I recorded my Well-Traveled AF episode a few weeks back, and I talked about pretty much every means of transportation except for my feet. And I know some of you guys like foot stuff, so today is all about my feet and specifically where my feet have taken me. I've lived in cities where it was totally reasonable to not own a car and just walk everywhere or take public transit. I've lived in cities and currently live in a city where you can walk, but it's really not ideal. And if you grow up in the Midwest, it's kind of a catch-22 because the scenery and the nature and like the walking trails and everything are gorgeous, but you got to get outside the 1 month a year where it's not below freezing. So let's walk, skip, jump, hop right into it. So this is going to make me giggle. I'm sorry in advance. I don't really know too many books that I would recommend as it relates to walking and whatnot. I'm sure there's plenty of blogs you could check out or books about walkers, hikers, whatever. But if I was going to recommend one, I would say go ahead and pick you up that Lord of the Rings trilogy. Because if anything, that is one of the most epic walking tales of all time. And you got to imagine those hobbits are way shorter than I am. And the hobbits were able to go all the way to Mordor from Middle Earth on pretty much just their feet. They rode horses a little bit, but it was really on their feet. And if anything, feet were involved the entire time when you think about it. Because even when they were on horses, the horses have feet. Well, they have hooves, but still, they were on foot. The trolls were on foot. Pretty much everyone was on foot except for Gandalf once he was riding that bird thing or whatever. So, yeah. Also, I guess Game of Thrones to a certain extent is another one. Also, I guess the Bible is another really great walking tale. There's plenty of stories where people are just walking. There was a group of people, I think, that walked for 40 days and 40 nights, something like that. Jesus walked. Yeah, a lot of people walked in the Bible too. So those are my 3 picks for you to check out. Okay, so side note, I basically had this whole episode recorded. And then I got a little bit edit happy with the Control Z and the delete and trying to use Control Z again to get it all back. And guess what? It didn't come back. So here we are. I have to think that debacle happened because of the little kiki I had a moment ago that you were just listening to. Sorry, Jesus. My bad. Whatever. He knows me. Whatever. We're good. So some of my favorite walking stories also involve me embarrassing myself because it's just a thing I do. One of the earliest memories I have of me embarrassing myself walking involve me, a whole 5 years old, being babysat by my Uncle Kenneth, who I feel like he might have still been in high school at the time. So don't be too mad at him. It's not really his fault. But we're sitting on my grandma's front steps and he and I both hear the ice cream truck. And then we see it go by real fast. Because, side note, in the hood, the ice cream man might not actually be the ice cream man. He might not be. He definitely tore around that corner real fast and didn't slow down at all. But my uncle was like, if you can catch the ice cream man, I'll get you some ice cream. And I was like, oh my God, okay. So me with my tiny little legs jump off the front porch steps and go on into a full-on sprint and get maybe to my grandma's gate, which like is like a normal sidewalk to house ratio, like of like any normal city. It's not like a huge front yard or anything. So I don't know, maybe about 20 feet from the front door, and I biff it and I fall face forward on the ground. I scrape both of my knees, scars of which I still have to this day. I think my grandma like poured iodine on my poor little kneecaps. They were clean at that point. They definitely didn't get infected. But yeah, they're still scarred to this day. I have them. I'll never forget those scars. Another time I apparently embarrassed myself. This one I don't actually remember, but my parents tell me it did happen. I was, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3, and they went furniture shopping, and I was, really just walking real good at that point. And there was a mirror that was pointed outside, like pointed towards the door. And because I was so little, I couldn't tell that mirror was not a door, but instead, in fact, a mirror. And I'm like, ooh, my parents aren't looking at me right now. Let me go on an adventure. And I go on into a full-on sprint and smack right into the mirror, bust my little ass in front of everybody. Can you blame me though? Like, that's not really my fault. Like, how dare that store set a booby trap like that? Because that's literally what it is. It's like a baby booby trap. So rude. Another time that I busted my ass in front of people, that was like sort of embarrassing. So back in college, I went to school in Boston, and if you know anything about Boston, it is one of those cities in this country that is just like incredibly walkable. It's like more inconvenient to own a car half the time than it is to just like walk and maybe take like the T or the bus or anything like that. So it was my freshman year, and it was maybe a month into school, and me and my friend Erin, we were just like really bored one day, and we were like, "You want to just like walk to H&M?" So from our dorms at Mass Ave, we get outside onto what was called the Berkeley Beach at the time. And we took a right out of the dorms. I'm like doing a walkthrough with you right now. I hope you enjoy it. So yes, you're at 150 Mass Ave. In fact, pull up pull up Google Street View if you want, and take these directions. So from 150 Massachusetts Avenue, you step out of the dorms and you take a right towards Boylston. And you're going to want to cross Boylston, cross the bridge, and take a right on Newberry Street. Now, at the time, the corner of Newberry Street and Mass Ave was an Urban Outfitters and a like tall Best Buy. I have no idea if those things are still there. Because like right before I got there, I want to say Best Buy was a Tower Music store before all of those closed down. And so you take a right on Newberry Street. So of course we went to Urban Outfitters because duh, like we were 19, 18-year-old college students. So like what? Are you kidding? So do that. I don't even think no, I did. I bought a pair of bell bottoms from Urban Outfitters. And then we decided to make the trek over to H&M. So now, I don't know exactly how many miles it actually is, and I'm sure if I look it up now, I would be like incredibly embarrassed. But we walked what felt like 5 to 6 miles to get to H&M. We took Newberry Street over that way. And it was fine, but at the same time, outside it was like really windy, and it was raining, but it was like the angry kind of rain where it wasn't raining hard, but it was like a spitty drizzle. Like it was like a hardcore drizzle, if there is such a thing. Maybe it was freezing rain. I don't know. I don't think it was freezing rain. But anyway, we're walking. The wind is picking up pretty high and the rain is angry. Um, and we don't care because we just had a need to shop. So we go to H&M, we get our cute outfits, whatever. We're like, oh, you're so cute. No, you're so cute. Oh, good job. All right, let's go back. So we walk back, except this time we're now walking against the wind. And as we walk, my umbrella turns inside out. Aaron's umbrella just flies away. Although I secretly think he just let go, but whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, it is like bad out, but we're almost back to the dorms. Let's just power through. Cause we were at like that point, we were like halfway. And at that point we were walking down Boylston because we wanted to see the other side. And Boylston and Newberry Street are parallel to each other. So we loop around and like do Boylston on the way back to Mass Ave. And at some point, I don't know, I guess the wind tripped me, but I tripped and fell and ripped my pants that did not have rips in them to begin with. Luckily, they were in fashionable places, but again, those pants did not come that way. I felt so dumb. I really did. Like, I just biffed it in front of all these people. And whatever. So Aaron picks me up and we go and we walk the rest of the way. We get back to the dorms. Our umbrella's broken and lost. And my roommate, Amanda, looks at me and goes, Amber, you know that it's hurricaning outside right now, right? Like, you guys just went to H&M in a hurricane. And me and Aaron were just like, oh. Because, like, that's the stupid response that, like, 18-year-olds have to stuff like that. Like, a reasonable adult would be like, oh my God, wow, I didn't know. Turn on the news, find out what's going on. No, our response was just, oh, you want to go to the calf? And then all three of us then said, yeah, let's go to the calf. And then that was it. Like, oh, to be 18 again, please never know. Anyway, over lockdown, I started hiking along with biking. Although hiking wasn't like the main thing I took up. Like I said, I have said, I've taken up biking. But another thing I did start to dive into was hiking. And I started hiking during lockdown pretty much by myself. I would go to just small trails around town. One thing about Nashville, while it is a car city, there are a lot of like greenways and places where you can walk or bike without traffic. So I started to do that, do short hikes that were maybe 2 or 3 miles, and that was fun. And then one of my friends was like, hey, let's go out. And it wasn't really a date. Like, it was a date, but it turned out to not be a date. I don't know. The vibe was weird. But the hike was not. However, this person liked to hike like 20-mile hikes. So he was like, hey, you want to go on a 20-mile hike? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. No problem. No big deal. I was wrong. I was very wrong. Like, it was no problem in the sense that I didn't die. You know, it's like, but did you die? No, I didn't die. But it was a scenario where, like, probably at mile 5, I was starting to feel it. Still talking, still talkative, whatever. But by mile 17, he was like, okay, so we can either turn around now and go back, or we can keep going and do an additional 8 miles. And I'm like, well, either way, it's like 7 miles going back or 7. So let's just do the 7 miles going back because I'm over this. But yeah, like at some point I just stopped talking and I'm just like trying to breathe. And it was then that I was like, I probably have like asthma of some kind. Surely. No, I don't really, like I got an inhaler, but it's mostly because I'm out of shape. Like as much biking as I do, no amount of biking I feel can prepare you for a hike that's like 20 to 22 miles long in like very rough terrain, which I don't know. It got me thinking too, like on some of the other hikes that I've done. Like I've done Greeter Falls here in Tennessee, and I've done that one by myself, and that was a lot of fun. It's an easy hike. There is a very tall, long, windy staircase that I don't particularly appreciate. Like the first half of the staircase is a metal like spiral staircase, and it's narrow and tall. All of my things that I just don't enjoy. And then once you get to the bottom of that, there's like really wide set wooden muddy stairs. Like I don't know. I think I've said this on another podcast, but like I'm not a fan of stairs that are not appropriately sized. I'm just not. I don't get vertigo, but like I do get nervous and I'm like clinging to stuff. And so I had to like slide down on my butt all the way. Once I got off the spiral staircase, I pretty much slid down till I got to like the basin of the waterfall. But man, that was too much. I didn't dig it. But the actual hike itself is fun. And I was thinking about like, okay, so I'm doing these hikes with my shoes on. And I started thinking about like runaway slaves because like a lot of them didn't have shoes. And if they did, they were like barely enough to like cover their feet. And they made, treks that were upwards of like 800 miles on foot mostly. Like, I apparently ain't shit because I don't know if I would be able to do it. I mean, maybe I would. If the end goal is freedom, yeah, I guess that would be definitely enough of a motivator. But at the same time, I'm just thinking like, man, I was bitching after 20 miles. I was like, let's turn around after 20 miles. I don't know. I don't know if I see it for myself. I don't know. I would like to think that I'd be like badass and like run, but I don't know how far I would get. I don't know. Oh man. So yeah, I have some shoes that I love. I have a lot of shoes that I love. And I want to tell you about them. I want to tell you about a couple pairs that just stick out in my mind as iconic in the land of amber. And yeah, some other stories. Okay, so let's start with the time that I accidentally got like a semi-rare pair of Air Force Ones. Okay, so like as much of a I don't think that I can give myself the title of sneakerhead or even shoehead, though I love the shoes that I have and have picked for my wardrobe, but in general, I actually am someone who likes to be barefoot as much as possible. I believe in grounding to a certain extent. Like, I don't know, it's not uncommon for me to like walk to and from my car with no shoes on. And I know people are probably like, ugh, Amber, no. But hear me out. Somehow my feet never stink. They just don't. They never stink. I'm somebody who can admittedly say, like, I can be a bit smelly sometimes. But one part of me that never smells are my feet. I don't know. I have to think it's because I don't wear socks hardly ever. And I don't wear shoes when I don't have to. I know that's a side note from the sneaker story, but in any case, I have feet. I like putting shoes on them sometimes. Other times I don't. One time that I enjoyed putting shoes on them was this. So it was freshman year of high school. And it was like Labor Day weekend. in Minnesota at the time anyway, school started the day after Labor Day, which happened to also be the same weekend as like the final weekend for the state fair. And of course, Labor Day sales happen all over the place. So my family and I went to the outlet mall outside of the city. And I just happened to go to, I don't think it was the Nike outlet. I actually think it was like the Journeys outlet or something. And so they had these like sale bins that were outside. And so I'm just like looking through these sale bins and I come across a pair of shoes. They were Nikes and they were leather. I would say the swoosh was like a red wine color. And then the underside of the shoe was brown, like a chocolate brown. And then there was like part of the shoe that was like a tan. So like a real classy pair of shoes. And I had just bought like a beret that was the same color of the swoosh and like a belt that matched the brown. Like it was a whole thing. I was very much into like color coordinating my outfits back in the day. Like I now I'm somebody who likes to maybe power clash or have like maybe I'm going to wear all black and a bright red boot. But not necessarily everything is going to match every bit of color. But I was like that in high school. So I purchased these shoes. I got them on clearance for, I want to say I got them for $11. It was a cheap pair of shoes, but they were Nikes. And the song Air Force Ones by Nelly had just come out, maybe not too long before that. But I also was never a cool kid. I can't stress this enough. I was not one of the cool kids. I was barely a fringe kid, if I'm even being real about that. But so I got these shoes not knowing that they were Air Force Ones, not knowing that they were like cool, like really cool. I just was like, oh, these are going to match everything. Yes. So when I go to school, first day of school, I wore those. And like I got so much like cool kid cred. Not enough to where like I was suddenly popular, but definitely enough where like the cool kids were like, "Oh wow, your shoes are so cool. Oh, whoa. Oh, where'd you get those?" And they're like, "You got Air Forces?" And I was like, "What? What are Oh, these are what the song is about?" Yeah, I got Air Forces. No big deal. Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. I there is something about like a cool shoe that, especially if you're in high school, where if you're wearing it, you feel like you can do anything. You know, when you're a kid, like if the shoe looks fast, you are gonna run fast. Like all the shoes that were my favorite when I was a kid had like lights in them. Maybe they made sounds. Maybe they had like really cool like curly shoestrings that you didn't actually have to tie. You just like you pull them and they like curl up like a phone wire. Yeah, like all of those shoes were just so great. Um at some point, and I know a lot of like mother daughters out there probably can relate to this, but at some point um my mom and I wore similar shoe sizes. And it became a thing where we started stealing each other's shoes. Like she had this pair of like vegan snake skin boots that were like a deep chocolate brown. And they also had like a nice shine to them. And they were knee highs. And that's around the time when like knee high boots were like the girl. Like that was the girl. So yeah, from time to time, I would just like go into my mom's closet and steal her like tall brown boots. And then she retaliated because I had these boots that had like, they were cool. Like they sound tacky now. And I think nowadays they would be. But at the time, I had this pair of knee high boots that like the trim on it was like a brown, but then the main part of the boot, like the calf and everything, and the shins, it was like this tan base, and then it had like pictures of like the Eiffel Tower and like Parisian people and just like fashionable people walking down the street, just like all over these boots. So adorable. My mom stole them. And something about my mom stealing my shoes versus me stealing hers, I just felt so violated. I was like, no, see, it doesn't work this way. I didn't ask to be here. So I should be able to use your boots. But I'm also not okay with you taking mine. Like, no, don't take my boots. Eventually we started stealing each other's shirts and stuff, and then it was just like, yeah, it was all at war in that way. I don't know. So then that leads me to some of my other favorite shoes. I have a pair of silver leather high top Chucks. And I wore those Chucks for just about every performance I did in 2016, basically probably 2016 through 2018. I wore those for like almost every show. They were like my signature thing, and I loved them. I would wear them with dresses. I would wear them like literally with anything. Anything, even if it didn't seem like appropriate to be wearing sneakers, I was wearing those sneakers. They were my thing. I since have graduated from those, though I still have them. And I should bust them out sometime soon. For the sake of nostalgia. But I have graduated to this pair of boots by Freebird by Steven that are also silver. It's like a silver foil painted leather boot that's kind of like a Doc, but they're not Doc Martens. They're Freebird by Steve. And also to that same vein, I just got a pair of these tall, like knee-high red snakeskin boots, also by Freebird. And I also have the short version in white, like the ankle boot. I love those boots so much. They're just so cool. I don't know, like if I'm going to wear shoes on stage, like I like them to be comfortable. But I also like that like certain outfits that I wear on stage, I could just change the shoe and it's like a stage outfit versus a going out outfit. There's something different about like how your stage clothes will hit versus like I'm going to go to the club. Not that I go to the club. Like the only club that I go to currently is Donks, and it's basically the Black Hooters. And I really only go there because I like their catfish plates and their Henny Ritas. And I usually try and go before sundown. Oh, yeah. Let's see. What else? When I was a kid, I always wished that I had bigger feet. All of my friends were tall. My friend, like my gal pals, the ones I did have, they were, for the most part, they were really tall. I think most of them grew to be like between 5'9" and 6 feet tall. And my short ass, like, didn't get taller than like 5'5" and a half. I am very proud of that half. I do claim it. I think I wanted to be tall because America's Next Top Model had just started airing, and they like placed so much on the like, gotta be 5'7" or higher. And I was like, maybe someday I'll grow to be 5'7", at least. Because all my friends were tall, and they all had huge feet. And like, that was a time in my life where I did wear socks because I was convinced my feet were at least an 8.5, if not a 9. I was just convinced. And I don't know why my parents like bought me shoes that were way too big. I think because they too thought maybe I would grow more. But yeah, so I would like double up on socks and stuff and like hope that I could wear these bigger shoes. And I don't know if it was because I wanted to like share shoes with my friends. I wasn't really big on sharing. So I think it had more to do with the fact that I just felt left out and being so short. I think I was trying to wear like a size 8.5 or 9. Realistically, my foot is actually, depending on the shoemaker, it's a 7 or a 7.5. Most often a 7.5. So yeah, that dream never came to fruition, but that's okay because as an adult, I actually really enjoy having these like tiny feet. They're cute. And they're not even like the tiniest feet. I know some friends of mine who they have feet, I think they wear 6.5. So yeah, I don't know. In someone's eyes, I have big feet, but for the most part, my feet are cute and tiny. Whatever. Anyway, um, let's see. I went through a few sneaker phases. So, um, originally I was a Puma girl. Like I think a lot of people who, if they either wore Pumas or like themselves or knew other people who loved Pumas, I feel like any Puma head always had this pair of shoe. It was the like I guess it's like their soccer kind of shoe, but it's like a brown suede leather with like uh the tan leather swoosh, like the Puma swoosh or whatever it's called. I had that. And I guess I got into the Puma phase because they were a good shoe. They're narrow, and my feet are narrow, and small. And there was a Puma outlet not too far from my house. So anytime I needed a new sneaker, I would just go there because I could get like really cool, stylish looking sneakers for like no money. So at one point in time, I probably had like 12 pairs of Pumas. It's just ridiculous. Like so many shoes that I didn't need. But I did actually wear them all the time. I had one pair that technically were cleats, but I wore them to school a lot. Like, why? But they were like cute because they were like black and tan, and like the swoosh was like a patent leather, and the rest of it was uh like a suede, I guess. Yeah, those were cute shoes. I had so many cute Pumas. I had a pair of like ballet flats that actually laced up like ballet shoes that were Pumas, and they were like pink, but they were more like a Mentos pink. Um, so there is that. And then once I moved to Nashville, I'd say, and I started working out, I really got into Nike shoes. I really like their CrossFit shoes, the Nike Flex. Those just are good all around. I'm gonna jog, I'm gonna bike, I'm gonna do CrossFit. They're just an all around great shoe. I had one pair that I still wear actually. Um, they're like gray and then with like pink and black accents. And I want to say they're the Flex shoe. But they're like 5 years old and they're still kicking. Like they're just now finally starting to like really fade and stuff and be like really worn down. But I've worn those for so many different things and so many different weather conditions, so many different terrains. And like they have gotten me through so many things. So yeah, I don't know, if I needed to get a new pair of like exercise shoes, I probably would still go get Nikes just because I know how they're gonna fit. And for the most part, they're a good shoe. Um, let's see. But then, like I mentioned earlier, yeah, I got into a phase of like Chucks and being like, I'm only gonna wear Chucks wherever I go, like specifically on stage, because I like had this dream that I'd get a Converse sponsorship. Um, it didn't happen. But I did get a ton of those shoes, and yeah, the silver leather ones were my favorite, but I also had a black pair of leather ones that were high tops. Um, I had a gray low top, just like gray leather low tops. I really liked their leather versions of their Chucks. So I got a bunch of those kinds, but ended up really only wearing the black ones, or I guess I wore the gray ones for a while. But for the most part, I just wore the silver ones or the black ones. And then eventually, like, actually, I just took, I don't know, I really should do Poshmark or something more, just with the volume of things that I give away over time. But I just gave away a bunch of Chucks to the Goodwill because they're just sitting here and I hadn't worn them in at least 2 years. And I was like, they need to go. As much as I'd like to hang on to them, I don't have the space for it in this house. They need to go. Purging is hard. I just purged a bunch of stuff, some furniture that I was able to get from my old job that they had given away. I have now since given it away because it just doesn't fit in the house anymore. And I'm really trying to like do better about that. I'm trying. I don't know. We'll see. I'm saying this as I'm staring at this pile of shoes that need to go in my shoe closet. Cuz side note, I ended up having to turn one of my linen closets into a shoe closet, which honestly works better. Like everything has a place. I have multiple linen closets, so like I was like, all right, this one's going to be the shoe closet. And yeah, they all fit. I used to have bookshelves by my front door that were specifically for my shoes. And I started looking and I was like, it still just makes my house look messy. So, yeah, out of sight, sort of out of mind, I guess, now that they're up in the shoe closet. So sometimes, I don't know, now that I'm the ripe old age of 32, I think about like, okay, when can I go on the cheap for things versus when should I like actually pay the money for them? And shoes are definitely in that like world of, okay, when do I buy cheap? When do I buy expensive? And then what do you deem expensive? What are you going to splurge on? And I feel like for workout tennis shoes, I typically feel like I need to buy name brand. And that's mostly because of like textile waste. Because the times that I've bought cheap tennis shoes, not like expensive ones on sale. I don't mean that. I mean literally like cheaply made tennis shoes. I go through them like really fast. I just mentioned the Nike pair that I really love, the gray and pink and black ones. I've had those for like 5 years and they're just now starting to go out. But there are other sneakers that I've had over the years that are cheap, like cheaply made, that after 2 months of wear, the soles start to come apart, or there's random holes in it that you can't find. Like just a lot of random like things where they just don't work anymore, or they lose their shape. And so you end up like getting tired of them and you toss them out. Except it's not biodegradable, so that's just going to a landfill. And you're spending more money. Like you might buy 4 pairs of sneakers in a year if you're an active person, if you're buying cheap sneakers, and like spend just as much as it would have been for you to get a nice pair of Nikes on sale. And so I'm really getting more into the quality over quantity thing. Hence why I've been purging things out of my house. When I would say when it's like doable for me to get like a cheaper shoe or like even just like a fast fashion shoe, would be if I'm buying a ankle boot or something. And the thing about fast fashion stores that sell ankle boots, you have to just pay attention. Like if you buy those, just get the kind that are like heavy and well made. Because those will last for a while, though the soles notoriously always start to come apart from those. But yeah, I'll buy a cheaper boot, like a ankle boot, but I also will buy expensive boots as well. It just depends. Like my everyday, I'm just hanging out. Yeah, I'll get it cheap. But if it's for stage or photo shoot or like stunting on these hoes, yeah, I'll get an expensive boot. And I don't know, like, I guess with heels, I'm typically not buying. Well, I actually haven't bought a pair of heels in at least 2 years at this point. When I was buying heels, I noticed that if I bought cheap heels, the heel would break. The actual heel of the shoe would break, and it would always just be one. And so I'd be at a bar or on stage even, or just like out walking, and one of the heels would just like snap off. And so now I'm having to like hop on one foot or take the other shoe off and walk barefoot, which ordinarily would be cool, except if I'm barefoot in a place I don't want to be barefoot in, like downtown on Broadway, like not ideal. And that's happened to me so many times over the years that I said, okay, nope, never again. If I'm going to buy a pair of heels, they don't need to be Louboutins. I don't have Louboutin money. Although if you're listening to this and you do, and you want me to wear some Louboutins, you can cash at me. Anyway, but buying a good pair of heels doesn't mean you have to break the bank, but it does take a little bit more work. It does mean you probably have to say goodbye to Forever 21. I know. I know. And shop at Macy's. And I know Macy's sounds like it might be expensive, but if you hit their sale rack, it's actually not that expensive. Another alternative. So I love this fast fashion store, Shop Akira. And I know you're like, oh, well, why is Shop Akira okay, but not Forever 21? Well, they partnered with this shoe designer, Azalea Wang. And her shoes are pretty luxe, and like they're well made and they don't fall apart. Like I've tested them, I've worn them, like they're well made shoe. Like I would say if you have to get heels somewhere cheaper, it would be there. They're maybe priced more than like definitely priced more on the high end compared to Forever 21 or H&M, but they're still attainable. And they're not like breaking the bank per se. So yeah, check shopakira.com. Nope, not sponsored. Well, technically they were really cool to me. I hit them up a few years ago when I was doing like a 2-month long tour with Luthi. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be on tour playing South by Southwest and some of these other events. Would you be interested in sponsoring a few of my outfits? And I'll post about them and do an unboxing and stuff. And they said, yeah. So they've actually been really sweet to me and like sent me outfits over the years. So shout out to them for that. Yeah, I don't know. An interesting thought that I had while recording this was, we're always being told that we should be walking with purpose. But how can you walk with purpose when you're still trying to find it? And I think for me, in trying to do that, I remind myself that I don't know it all. I don't necessarily know where I'm going to go at all times, but I do know that my purpose in life is to like just trailblaze. So I'm in a lot of ways, at least for me and my lineage, I'm walking a path that I don't think any other Woodhouse has walked. I mean, maybe they have and I just don't know them. But in general, I'm in uncharted territory. Like in general, I just am. I'm not really following a blueprint of people in my family that have come before me. I'm not necessarily able to call on them for favors to like get me a leg up in the music world or whatever. I don't have that. I'm having to do that on my own. And that's okay. And I just kind of figure if I'm going to walk this path and kind of make this path for those that'll come after me, might as well have like killer shoes in the process. Am I right? No, but jokes aside, for me, I feel like I frequently can kind of see the destination of where I'm going. And it's all the other stuff that leads to it that I have to figure out along the way. But as long as I'm doing things that take me one step forward, knowing that sometimes you might get knocked back a couple steps, but in general, forward momentum. Like, as long as I have that, I know that I will reach my destination. And I'm always just trying to do something one day at a time, make strides one day at a time that will push me a little bit closer to my goals in life and where I want to be. So my hope for anyone out there listening is that, maybe you don't have a car. Maybe you do have a car. Maybe you have your feet. Maybe you don't have access to your legs or your feet. You don't need them. If anything, we can be bipedal, like metaphorically. It's all about just like finding your forward momentum. I think at the end of the day, if there's one takeaway I can give you, is like just find what pushes you forward and chase that however you may. All right. I love you all. Thank you for listening. Shout out to Kent Tolson, who's been listening and giving me feedback. Appreciate it. Shout out to my mom. She's also been listening. Shout out to the people. There's somebody in Germany, and so I think that's Doreen. I have to think it's Doreen, but there's someone in Germany and there's someone in France that's listening every week. So thank you to you guys as well. And I'll chat with you guys soon. Bye.